and welcome to the Huddersfield Town Social. My name is Greg Marah. Joining me as ever is Cam Pope, Kaye, and reappearing on our screens because he's not working for once, Sean O'Toole, aka Smile a While. How are you, gents? Hope you're all right. We're going to start with we had a hiatus last week. We'll be quite honest, because we didn't have a game last week, and we got criticised for not being positive enough by the positive police. But I'm not sure how we could be, given the fact we haven't won a game in 2021. So, we've gone into rehab, we've tried to reassess, and then we've come out to the same conclusion. So, get ready for some more negativity with a little bit of sprinkles of positivity thrown on top. We'll start with Stoke and a positive. We didn't lose a game, and a 1-1 draw. Peeper scoring very early on. Penalty from Stephen Fletcher, thanks to the calamity between Richard Keogh and Naby Sarr at the back, and a red card that Huddersfield Town couldn't take any advantage of, which was mightily frustrating. It does feel like 2 points dropped, and it felt like that kind of was the game to help rekindle our season.
Well, it's disappointing, but unfortunately, I'd love to say that it was a surprise that we succumbed to the draw in the end, but it really isn't. I think we all knew what was going to come from that, really, and we're going to be bringing up a lot of the points that we've made time and time again. There was nothing new that we were sort of showing against Stoke, nothing that we thought we could bring off the bench that could change things. And again, you look at it on paper and you think it's against a side who's higher than us in the league, against a side who's become a bit of a different team it's a different contest than to other years. So, before the game, I'd have taken the 1-1. But on the pattern of play, also taking the lead and then having the man advantage for over half the game, or for half the game, let's say. That is 2 points dropped, and I won't hear anything else about that, because Stoke didn't really threaten us after the 45th minute as well. They executed it, I thought, to perfection. Fair play to them. They sat back, they soaked up everything we threw at them, which was, I think, mild threats for most of that second half. And I think that's why they are where they are, and that's why we are where we are, because we didn't do anything to break them down. We had a couple of half chances, and there were times where I considered turning off. I thought, well, I said to my mate at our time, I said, well, this is 1-1 now, because we don't break down teams. I think I saw someone plucked out a really good stat. I didn't catch the username, so I can't give you credit. But the last time we've played against 10 men, 5 out of the last 6 times, should I say, we've not gone on to get victory. So we can't break teams down, especially defensive-minded teams, and it's just there to stare us in the face again. And I'm sure we'll go over a lot of old ground as we dig into why.
It was it was disappointing. I think it's probably the best word I could come up with. Chatting with a few people after the game, Stoke came. I thought Stoke, a bit like Millwall and to a point Bristol City, I thought they were there for the beating, and we didn't take advantage. They played quite narrow. Sarr was picking out wide balls with regularity, and Benza was getting loads of room. The first 20 minutes, I thought, well, this is great. We scored a goal, bit of a lucky deflection, but a deserved lead for sure. But then about half an hour into the game, they changed slightly and pushed Joe Allen onto Bayeko, and then we had 15 minutes of madness where we couldn't cope with it. Keogh committed suicide. He played the same ball twice. He got cut out once, didn't learn his lesson, did it again. Naby Sarr did a Naby Sarr and jumped in and create, they're just a stupid foul for a stupid penalty. Fletcher was never going to miss it. He always seems to score against us, doesn't he? And then the ref gave us a lifeline with the red card. I think the only people that think it wasn't a red card are the Stoke fans. He went over the top of the ball, and in current football, that's all there's going to be a red. So the ref helped us. He gave us every chance. I thought second half we had an half decent go. We had one off the bar. There was Bakuna's effort that was headed off the line. I think the Pippa one, if theirs is a foul, then the one on Pippa's a penalty for me as well. But we ran out of ideas, and then the last half an hour, we just played in front of them. We make it so easy for teams to defend. It's just side to side in front of them. With no penetration down the back. I lost count of the number of times that Pippa came inside instead of going around the outside. It's pretty deflating, boys, pretty deflating.
Everybody thought, I believe everybody thought, I felt anyway, when they went down 10 men, yes, we're going to get our first 3 points of 2021. And then I started having flashbacks to other Stoke matches that we've had before. I recall another one where they got a man sent off, and they just sat deep. And like I say, when a team sits deep against Town, and it seems now and previously, we really struggle to break them down. And when they park the bus, and you need something a little bit different, don't you? And obviously Fraser Campbell's sort of dipped in form. He was looking for him to bag a goal, and you could just see it slowly petering out. And you're thinking, yeah, you take a point, but we should have won that game. The players on the pitch should have won that game, and they should have stepped up. Yes, there was experience in the ranks of Stoke, as there always is. They've always had a little bit of money behind them, but it's a really frustrating game to watch in the end. I was in and out, definitely same as you, Cam, and it was quite close to just doing something different. What can you say about it? I think that we are playing good football. I was excited for the first 20 minutes. You look at it and you get that. I get that little buzz about it. I think we've got some good players here. We play some good football, and then I think the injury list is obviously hit us hard, just like many clubs. You know what I mean? We have got a lot of key players out. Could Hoggy, the general, come in there and sort of change the tempo there a little bit? Obviously Vallejo, is that how you pronounce it? I'll go for Vallejo. He's a talent. I'm well impressed with him. But it shows how I'm going off on a tangent here. It shows how kind of sort of mixed I am with Town at the minute, and kind of in my own little world, that when we played Plymouth in the FA Cup, I thought that Vallejo were from our academy. I thought, oh, this guy's a real player. He's got a lovely tan complexion, say he's grown up in Murfield. Turns out he played for Menorca or Mallorca, whoever it is. But he's a good player. He'll be a good midfielder for us. Someone like Hoggy, that when you break a tackle, or one of them big commanding headers, or you needed someone to change that tempo a little bit, and everything was side to side. It was very Wagner-esque, and we couldn't penetrate, could we?
I think it's true what you say about Vallejo, actually, because it was a slow start from him. I saw him against Plymouth and I was unsure, and then he grew into the game, and we saw him rattle the crossbar in midweek, and so I think that's the main positive we can take. But that's just it. It is sideways and turgid. Okay, the one time I got out of my seat was that header off the line. That was it for 45 minutes, where we had a man advantage against the side, slightly better on paper, but that should have been redressed by the man difference. But it's again, I think a lot of the community is missing the point at the moment. We're playing some nice footy. We can all agree on that. But a lot of people do seem to be very happy with the status quo. And and you're absolutely right. I say, the injuries we've been hit with have been really tricky to deal with. I do think it's self-inflicted, because we play a brand of football that has high intensity, and we have a thin squad as it is, and so this was always going to happen. But a lot of people in the community seem to be very happy with the way that things are going at the moment, or will throw scorn on those who dare to criticise. And I think as long as that criticism is founded in fact, and you can back that up, that's okay. It's not negativity for negativity's sake. And then, for people to come out and say that, this is okay now, that we're okay just having a go, just playing pretty football. We've all been through pretty Town teams who've won nothing, and Town teams who've ground out results and done quite well. And you got to ask yourself, which one would you rather have? And so, I'm all right for us playing a nice ball into the box and some some nice triangles and halfway. But there's got to be the substance of a style at some point, and I'm finding it really difficult now to get on board with that, given that we still haven't won in 2021. That's 6 now without a win. I just think, that's nice. I'd like to play pretty football, but all this focusing on identity, this is an argument we've been coming back to again and again and again. Well, an identity is very nice, but identity ain't going to win you any games. And we are just going to find ourselves in 5 games' time stuck in the same rut that we've been in, and we've been at risk of being in for the whole season. It's really frustrating me now.
I think when you have a change of identity, last time we had a significant change of identity was probably when David Wagner came in 2015. The difference between then and now is you could see progression throughout that era. I remember watching us Sheff Wednesday away, 60 minutes. Middlesbrough at home, 70 minutes. It was clearly we just weren't fit enough as a team. And then when you hear the stories of Chris Powell's twice a week training sessions, you kind of understood why. You've seen progression now with Carlos, but the momentum's kind of been lost because with Wagner, they brought in like Kareem Atmore. We remember that season we beat Leeds 4-1 away. This time you're looking at the transfers that have come in. Dwayne Holmes at 26, Aaron's about the same age, Richard Keogh. It's all right. I'm not saying we should go out and spunk a load of money on foreign players, but there doesn't seem to be recruitment matching the identity of football. It seems to be very Chris Powell signings with a Spanish manager and a Spanish or murder ball, Bielsa system. There doesn't seem to be an actual marrying up of identity to kind of how the club's going. And that's what really frustrates me when people start saying, oh, yeah, but it's a great signing. You've got to give him time. It's like, yeah, fair enough. I like to be proven wrong, but there's just something about the club right now that it doesn't feel right. And people say it's because you're not in the stadium. But guarantee you, if I've been in the stadium yesterday, probably would have left before the end because we knew what was going to happen. Probably been in the pub having these same conversations with my mates. There's a lack of direction there, and I fear that that's what needs to be tweaked in the coming months. Otherwise, when we do get back into stadiums, we're not going to have 15,000 there. We'll have 5,000 if we're lucky.
Is Corberán a little bit stubborn, would you say, sometimes?
I think so, yeah.
I think he can be, and I think that I rate him. I definitely rate him, but I think that a philosophy is one thing, but sometimes you've got to sort of go out of them parameters to win a game. And I think that if you sort of, how can we compare Huddersfield to Liverpool? Let's say Leeds. We can say Leeds, obviously, with Corberán's close connection to Bielsa. And I think that they've been undone at times as well, Leeds, because they don't change how they play. And, it can sometimes take you 10 minutes or it can take you 60 minutes. When you've worked a team out, you've worked them out. And, sometimes, you can go outside them parameters and try something different. What is wrong with like a decent sort of swayed ball into the box? Do you know what I mean? You're going side to side, you're trying to get that perfect cut back, for a perfect sweet strike from 30 yard, boom, in net. But sometimes, you've got to scrap out a result. And I think that we need a bit of that about us, a bit of grit. And that's what's missing. It's tidy football, like Cam said, it's nice to look at, but we don't want to be the Tottenham Hotspur of the Championship, do we? Sometimes you've got to, look at how Pippa got the goal. It was a crap shot, but he put a ball in. He deflected off someone. We got a goal from it. Because he had a pot shot. You look at other times where we've sort of, Fraser Campbell is one of them strikers. He's not a striker. He's going to be a prolific goal scorer. He is sort of one of them strikers that picks up scraps and sometimes pulls you a goal when you don't really expect it. But in a game like that, and when we're playing in a certain way, it's predictable. It's definitely slowed down, so you can tell that the players are knackered. And like you say, I don't know. We need a plan B sometimes to win a game. And what was it? Was it when we're chasing his tails against Bristol City and we were still passing it around the back? Get the ball in the box, man. Do you know what I mean? Get that ball in the box. Do head tennis for eight headers back and forth, and then see if it lands somewhere. And try and fight for it. Stop trying to be too proud. Go and win the game.
I think he's struggling to find a balance, Sean. I think if it weren't for 4 individual errors, we'd have taken 3 points out of the last 3 games. So I do feel for him a bit because I think that he's struggling to find a balance. And, the attacking balance has to be equalised by defensive balance. And we brought in experience, people who should be able to defend a box for 90 minutes, and they're just making individual errors. We're in a really crap run of form, 1 point out of 15 or something. I think at Christmas time we were 15, 17 points above the drop zone. We're now 9. We're in the shit, and I do believe, I honestly, if you took the 2 fullbacks out of our team, we'd be already in the relegation zone. And I think that's the other challenge that Corberán's got to work, is that teams have worked out you stop Pippa and you stop Toffolo and you stop Town. You know, we're very one-dimensional in that sense. The football has been, at times, phenomenal. But as I've said many times, our ability to play brilliant football and create fantastic goals is only surpassed by our ability to give away the crappiest of goals. And that's what's killing us now. It's absolutely killing us. Sky are telling us I guess I should know, we've conceded more goals than any other team in the Championship. And considering we're not in the bottom three, that's unbelievable in itself. So I feel a bit for Carlos. I think you're right. He is stubborn, and I think he wants to stick to his principles, which is fine. But then if he's not involved in transfers, the transfer committee or whoever it is has got to find him the players to play in that system. If this is the identity and that's where we're going to play, then you got to find the players to fit in that system. Lee Gregory don't fit in that system. Lucas Jukovic might, but Lee Gregory don't. So where does that leave us?
Well, did you see that video on YouTube of all the defensive errors this season? I mean, it kind of sums it up, doesn't it? And Richard Keogh, Richard Stearman, Ian said it last time, we're a graveyard for centre backs. When you're playing this kind of system, you need flexible. Well, not flexible. You need athletic. Well, flexible and athletic centre backs who can, get forward and press, drop off, play out wide. Those kind of centre backs are very expensive, and when you're playing this kind of system, you need to kind of play within the parameters of your squad. So there needs to be a marrying up of Carlos's system to the players that we have, but there also needs to be more focus on getting players in that can play Carlos's system. At the minute, both sides are pulling in different directions.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and I don't think it's the only balance that are getting catastrophically wrong at the moment. The other balance, and this is all linked into the whole transfer debacle, is that, look at it this way. Those at the very top of the club at the moment, they're wanting to run a tight ship and not wanting to spend a lot of money. That's bleeding obvious to everyone at the moment, isn't it? But you got to strike a balance. They got to ask themselves: do they want to create the perfect sustainable business model, or do they want to run a successful football club that's got a chance in the next few years? And so, yeah, I can't help thinking that sometimes these signings might just be to appease fans. It's like, look, we've got someone in the door, and yet it doesn't always seem to fit the mold. I thought Pieper was one of the best signings we've made in the last 5 years because he fits our system beautifully, and he just complements Toffolo. It's a fantastic guy to bring in. I think that Sarr has been a plus. I think, okay, and saying this after the weekend where he's given away the penalty, but I think that he's done more good than wrong. But I'm looking at signings like Danny Ward. I said this at the start of the season, and I've got nothing against the lad. And I love watching him a decade ago when he played, but he was a different player then. And it's not his fault he's hardly been fit, but I think that should have been that was a massive risk that we were taking when bringing him in. And we've mentioned the name Kiefer Moore so many times. That's the sort of caliber of striker who went quite cheap in the summer, and we got Danny Ward, and we've hardly seen the guy, and so. There's got to be a balance between, trying to run a football club in a way that's sustainable and responsible, then also backing your manager. And I get that we can't risk overspending him. Before I get slaughtered for it, I'm not advocating going out and splashing £10 million on a brand new team. Wednesday's been doing that for years, and look at the mess they're in at the moment. That doesn't guarantee you anything. But what we're doing now is going to guarantee one thing, and that's a downward, slow slide. It might not end up in relegation this year, but it ain't going to bode well. We've got a good manager now. We've got someone who could take us forward. He's got something in his head. Okay, he's got a style. He can get it. He can, like Wagner, he can make us into something that's greater than the sum of its parts. However, it's alarm bells, isn't it? As soon as he's offered a new contract, you know what that means. We know that. We know that people have got their eye on him, and why wouldn't they? And all he needs to be enticed by is someone saying, "Look, we'll give you the players that you want to make your system work." And how naive are we to think that we could get through this on the bare bones of a squad and throw the youth out there and then just bring in whoever's cheap and it's like it's like someone's gone to FIFA and just sort of looked at the first page of 120 results and thought, "Oh, they'll do." I don't quite understand the science behind these links with Lee Gregory. And yeah, we don't know how tenuous the links are or whether they'll materialise, but and all we can hope now is that likes of Dwayne Holmes fit in and play well for us. But we've got a coach who can take us forward, and we're not giving him something to work with, because these youth players, they might be ready in a few of them in 4 or 5 years time, but Carlos Corberán ain't gonna be here in 4 or 5 years time. And the other thing with that is that the fans who are vastly becoming, more and more apathetic by the day, they won't be here in a few years' time either. Because next season, when we're allowed back in with fans, they're going to vote with their feet, and a lot of them will not be there. A lot of them will not be there.
Well, as we have it, Huddersfield Town sit 14th in the table. Miraculously still mid-table. As Gaz mentioned, we are slowly dropping off. Only 9 points of Rotherham in the relegation zone. I think there's been quite a few teams at the bottom. Derby County won the last 3. Good old Wazza doing a great job in management there. I wonder what's going to happen with him. Or if he goes a bit like Frank Lampard, who knows? We'll look forward now, and we have impending transfers. Lee Gregory's been mentioned. Town have been linked to Lucas Jukovic, who's probably one of the, I still give one of the worst performances ever in a Town shirt, but that was an 18, 19-year-old lad. Elijah Adebayo, goalkeeper from Fleetwood. If you've got maybe 1 or 2 things to address before the transfer window slams shut imminently, what are the 1 or 2 things that you are all going to address?
It's got to be a goal scorer, hasn't it? And I know they're hen's teeth. I know they're expensive. I know they're hard to come by. But I actually think in the formation we play, you don't need to be a Premier League quality goal scorer. Dwayne Holmes was on for 20 minutes. He put 2 unbelievable crosses in. Unbelievable crosses. Any striker with half his salt would have buried one of them. So you're going to want a striker. We need a striker, don't we? And we needed a striker at the beginning of the season. I think the defensive frailties made us all start to question, sort of during the back end of 2019, whether actually we should be concentrating our concerns on the back 4. But it's clear we're going to continue to make those mistakes. So we've got to score more goals than the opposition. Otherwise, we're going to be in real trouble. So we still need a goalkeeper. Still need some backup at full back. We've said that many times, haven't we, on here? And we've got centre backs coming out of our ears. But if we're going to continue to play Carlos's way, where centre halves get left 1-on-1 or 2v2, then Stearman and Keogh are going to struggle in that formation.
We need a striker, that's for sure. We need a striker so there isn't as much pressure on Campbell, who is now an ageing player. I think he's still got a lot to offer us, and I'm really happy to see Fraser Campbell in a Town shirt. I wanted to see that for a long time, and now we've got it. And I think Dwayne Holmes, just to say a little bit on him, welcome back to Dwayne. I think that he will do well for us. I've watched him previous seasons and thought, God, we shouldn't have let him go. He's got a bit about him, and I think through the grapevine, people that I know that used to work at the club, he wasn't too happy with the way things ended, and I didn't think he'd come back. I think he's back with a point to prove now. And just a little shout out to West Yorkshire Sport as well, that Rolando Aarons, that is how you pronounce his name, Oggy and Matt Glennon, not Rolando Aarons. It's Rolando Aarons.
Pedant.
Really annoying me. So I just wanted to put it out there. So they do listen. Yeah. I think that, like you say, we've got some good players around there. Like Itim was just finding form. He's got injured. Hogg's out. Schindler's out. Ward hasn't even broke through. There is players there. But like you say, you need someone who can sniff a goal out. This Gregory, I had to Wikipedia mainly. I've never heard of him. But he seems like someone that probably could. I don't know about the guy, but looking at his Wikipedia, which probably didn't tell me an awful lot, from Halifax to Stoke. But, he seems like he was quite prolific at Millwall, and maybe he needs to go again, and he's got a point to prove for his career, and he might fit in. You don't know. It's like buying a car. It's always a gamble.
Well, for me, all of that and a bloody physio, because we're going to need him to keep up with all these treatments and injuries we're having to deal with. So I think striker has got to be top of the bill. It just has to be. Fraser Campbell is carrying our attacking hope on his back ever since Josh Koroma got injured, which of course was massively unfortunate. So Fraser Campbell, well into his 30s now. It cannot be all on him. It cannot be all on him to keep us going. So striker, that is clearly obvious. Fullback cover, we've been saying this for months and months and months. Do I think it will happen? No. I don't think we need any more centre backs, because we seem to just be crocking them as soon as they come in, because we're asking so much of them. And hopefully, okay, that is something we'll get bodies back in, and that will ease the pressure. but it's an alarming rate at which our players are falling at the moment. But the big one for me is goalkeeper, and that's nothing against Ryan Schofield, because I think he's on the whole done well. But he's very young. He's very young. As we say this every week, he's very young, and also he's got to be able to mature at his own pace. So he has to have someone dependable, not just to have on the bench, if anything goes wrong or he gets coronavirus or anything like that, because that's not a very real concerns at the moment, but also to learn from him for a bit of guidance. And so I've seen we've been linked with this Jason Leutwiler, the Canadian international. He's been a bit of a journeyman. He's been around a few clubs into his 30s. Perfect, okay, get him in for the end of the season. It might only be a short job and stuff. But, probably cost us some money. But then you're looking at it and you think, if that's true, then why the hell did we get rid of Ben Hamer? Why the hell did we get rid of him for the next few months? And so, it's exactly the same mold, because I worry that he's basically got to double his career games for Town in order to keep us through to the end of the season. We've seen enough of Joel Pereira, really, I think, for most people, and I don't like to get on his back, because I know he's okay, people will say he's old enough to know better, but he's still a player at the start of his career in a very tentative stage. However, it didn't look good on his debut, and it's hard to ignore everything you hear from Hearts fans about last season. And so he is basically in the same boat as Ryan Schofield, a young man at the start of his career. You can't rely on two of those. You need a veteran stopper. So for me, striker is of primordial importance, but goalkeeper not far behind.
I know we've mentioned it, and I want to try and spin everything around, because the positive police have been against us. But it's the sense of apathy with the team that I'm going to touch on here. And obviously part of that is down to results and lack of direction. But I feel when we have the platform that we do, we should be a little bit more speculative and creative, and how to kind of involve ourselves. And we started doing this because we didn't have a game to go to, and we wanted to have a whinge because we missed having a whinge, and nobody was really having a whinge. But last night I was just skimming through Twitter, which is never the most positive of places in the first place. But there seems to be a lot of division amongst Town fans at the minute. But those who I've followed for years, who have bumped into at Town matches over those probably last 10, 12, 15 years, a lot of them have kind of lost that connection. And it's not just because we're not going to games. They see it as, where the hell are Huddersfield Town going at the minute? What would you guys do to try and this is mainly probably for the club to an extent, and I know that Andy, when he's been on, has said this, and he's been positive about trying to keep kids involved especially. But what would you guys do to try and keep engagement higher and trying to reduce that level of apathy? Because I think apathy is worse than anger, and when it comes to a football club, because we've seen that from probably the Ken Davey era, probably the latter years of that before Dean Hoyle took over, even to an extent under Robbins and Powell, where the season ticket holders were dropping off, and the big defeat at Bournemouth at the start of the season when Matt Crooks ended up playing centre back, there was a sheer amount of apathy amongst fans. How do we get that sense of, don't want to say togetherness back, but a sense of excitement about football? Because at the minute it just seems to be, with the world the way it is, that we're losing touch with everything.
Well, we spoke about this not that long ago, I think, didn't we? And I think, the club will say that they're now putting out more online content than ever before. They have the pre-match discussions and then they have the post-match discussions, but it's all very one way. It's outbound. I don't see any reason why Phil or a senior member of the team, Lee Bromby or whoever, couldn't do a Zoom Q&A. Dean was great at getting everybody back on the Dean Hoyle bus by rocking up at Canalside, buying a few pints and sharing a few insights, and that worked well. And I think I've said before, I went to the Fulham Q&A with Phil, and I thought he came across really well. I was actually really impressed with him. So the guy's got no to fear from these things. You can still control the environment, but still make it open. You see some of the other things we've done in the past around virtual contact for kids. Ringing kids up on the birthday, making contact with old people, that kind of stuff. The club, and now they may well be doing that and not publicising it, but if they are, it's gone very quiet on that front. I think it's more difficult with with Carlos. You look at how David Wagner was very much involved in the community, and I think the Cowleys were as well. there's not a lot of that. Now, it might be more difficult because they physically can't get out, but they've got to use the technology, Greg. That's all they can do in the short term, is use the technology that's in front of them to try and communicate with us. But it's, I don't envy them the communication task, but as we've said before, they don't sometimes drop the ball with it.
I think it's part of being a football fan, though, isn't it? And I think that you have your ups and downs, and you live for them moments of when you have success. And with Huddersfield, it just comes with a package, really, that we go through these sort of fits and starts, and peaks and dips. And I think that we're sort of in a middle ground now, so we're not quite used to this. We're used to either success or failure, and at the minute we're kind of very much in that middle ground, and we want to know where we are. And at the minute we're not where we want to be, which is in the football stadium. And I think that is having a massive effect on a lot of mental health across the country and across the world. With football, it's just not the same watching it on your phone, is it? And I think that hopefully some positivity will be injected once we're around our friends and close ones again, and sat in our seat that we always sit in, and doing our normal routine, really, and waking up on a Saturday. That'll just get me excited again, waking up on a Saturday and knowing that I'm meeting my dad and my brother, and going into top tier at Riverside. That will bring positivity back for me, even if we lose. So I think that town fans need to stay positive as much as they can. And I know, like Cam said, it's not negativity for negativity's sake. We are all passionate about our football club, and Twitter, it can be a little bit demoralising sometimes. I have been looking at it recently myself for certain reasons for me, but I think that, once we can get back in that stadium, that will just inject so much for everyone. And I think that some of these results, I feel the Stoke result would have just petered out, and we would have been back in the Vulcan or wherever our drinking holes are, and it'd be like another 3 points dropped. But I think certain results, we could have been the 12th man and got them through. Really sort of got behind the team and maybe got some results, and that gives you an extra spring in your step. So I think that it's part of being a football fan, and at the minute we just need to back the manager, and hopefully, in doing so, the chairman will back the manager as well.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? I think OT's right. I feel the club is on the losing end of the situation, really, because they're always going to be on a bit of a hiding to nothing, and that everyone's going to be a bit down a beat about football now. And okay, the current situation at the club doesn't help, but look, it's always going to be like that. And I imagine that the apathy is growing, in every fan base in the country at the moment. So, I'm not going to lay all blame at club's door. And there's some really good people at the club as well who do a stellar job, like Dave, etc. It's, and we've got the outreach there, and we've had it in the past. So there's no reason why we can't cut the club a bit of slack. I think at the same time though, I think my two pennies worth would be maybe it is a lot of outgoing media rather than say two-way, and if I was I come from maybe the younger generation of town fan, and a lot of the names they have on, say, the pre-game show, that sort of thing, and they had Phil Starbuck on the other, didn't they? And the only reason I know who he is because of the last goal at Leeds Road, and Leeds Road, was demolished before I was born. So I think, if anything, and look, I'm not a frequent watcher, and they may have had a few more newer faces in since then, but maybe some faces that younger fans can relate to, because it's all well and good for those of a different era. So that's maybe one thing that I would say. But then again, it's a difficult one. It's a catch-22. It's how do you get fans to be enthused again without having them in the stadium? Well, you can't. We'll all be happy when we're in the stadium, but that's not going to happen until this calms down. And while this calms down, the club can't do anything to get us enthused because we're not here. So it's a lose-lose for everyone, and I don't think there's any fault to be dished out. But what we can actually do, concrete things. I mean, other than that, I don't know. I think it's just hard, isn't it? It's just hard. How does the club reach out to a fan base that that it physically cannot go near? So I don't know. Yeah, you're right. We've got to stay positive, and that's really hard. And I'm guilty of it at the moment as well, because I'll find any excuse at the moment not to watch the midweek game because I don't have to come on here and talk about it. And so it's like, yeah, go on, go to Morrison's and do the shopping. Doesn't matter. I'll just watch the score update. Oh, look, we're 1-0 down. You know, it's easy to leave it like that. But like, you know, I hate myself for it, but I'm commentating on Leeds on Wednesday, and I actually can't wait because I'm going to go to a game where they actually, you know, be at a game. And there'll probably be some goals, and I'll probably see some very good football. And you know, I might get panned for that a little bit, but I'm enthused by that. And I know that's one because I'm off to see a Premier League game, but that's also because I'm going to be there in the stand. And you know, it's not the club's fault that I can't be there. And if I could be there, then I'd probably be in a much more positive frame of mind if I could have a beer before the game and see my mates. So, you know, one day it was dead emotive what Sean was saying about meeting his dad and his brother, and you know, I can't wait till we can all do that again. And then I don't think the problems will seem quite as big when that can happen.
I think what Boothie and Matt Glennon did was really, really positive with the charity on whatever they called it, the seat charity thing that they did, because obviously they're working hard to still bring money into the Huddersfield Town Foundation, which I think are doing and continue to do some amazing things in the community. Obviously, they're restricted to what they can do now. So I don't know the official figure, but it seemed like they raised, you know, a healthy amount of money. So that's another great thing that went on recently, that happened recently.
Sheer blasphemy. Blasphemy. Oh, I can't even say my words out there. Cameron Pope. Disgraceful. Blasphemy. It may be a question to ask our Australian friend when he's not on the school run when we're recording this, but I've always found it interesting how certain football clubs manage to keep foreign fans. And I know that's more of a Premier League incentive, but it might just be a case of keeping people better engaged. And I know obviously abroad there's a lot of fan supporter groups and that kind of thing. Maybe something that fans like us can do to try and keep engaged. So, you know, like you say, it's a two-way street, but it's an interesting question because the reality is we're probably not going to be going in for this season. You know, you'd hope something by August time. Give me that jab. I know Gaz is probably first in the queue in this meeting, but sorry, Gaz. But just, you know, stick it in me, please. Get me into a ground. Get me having a beer, even if it has to be 2 seats away from someone for the first instance. I just think, you know, seeing people I've known who've been massive Town fans now just not caring, I think that's a real worry. Not just because of the current events, but when it comes to season ticket sales and whatnot, you know, there's a financial element around the club that I think we need to be a little bit concerned about. And perhaps that's why the club are being very frugal at the minute, although a little bit too frugal for my taste, even despite me being a tight Yorkshireman. Anyway, I know some of you have got other things to do on a Sunday evening, so we shall leave it there. We'll be back next week. Town, as I said, 14th in the league table, only 9 points above safety now. But we've got a week before the next game, which is always beneficial before, I think, later in this month, we're back to Saturday, Tuesday, which we all know can be very tough on this squad's legs. Bring back John Eager, that's what I say. Cam, Gaz, Sean, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.